That's great. So thank you so much for joining us. Can you just give us a little bit of background of who you are, how you got into working with SIT, and a little bit about the process?
My name is Drew Boyd. I'm an associate professor of marketing and innovation at the University of Cincinnati. And I teach various marketing topics, mainly strategy, innovation methods, and some other things. My background, though, is actually corporate. I've got over 30 years of corporate experience in organizations, 10 years in the airline business, 17 years in medical devices with Johnson & Johnson. So I've been around marketing a long time. I've taught it a lot. And it was my experience at J&J where I learned a lot about various, well, let's say a lot about innovation methods, and where ultimately I discovered this method based on patterns, this idea of systematic inventive thinking. And I had a chance to not only learn about it there, but also pilot it and see how we diffuse it through a large organization like J&J, which we did very successfully. And now in my academic life and consulting life, I spend time with a lot of companies around the world, teaching them this method, helping them apply it to their business, and helping them apply it not just to their products, but also to their services and processes. Ultimately, innovation is the surest path to competitiveness, and companies know that. What they lack is a method, and that's ultimately what the SIT delivers to them.
Can you tell me a little bit about when you were looking, there's many different methods, many different ways to innovate, what you found so effective about the SIT method?
What's true about SIT is this. It's counterintuitive. It doesn't seem to people to make sense at first because it's based on constraints and patterns. For thousands of years, everyday innovators have used patterns in their inventions, usually without realizing it. Those patterns are now embedded into the products and services you see around you every day. Think of the patterns as the DNA of a product or service. Imagine if you had a way to extract that pattern and reapply it to any product, process, or service, business model, to take advantage of that pattern and create your own innovations. Now, my co-author, Dr. Jacob Goldenberg, did research that demonstrated that the majority of innovations in the world can be explained by just 5 patterns. And that's the core of what the SIT method is. What I like about it is that it's a method very much based on constraints. You constrain the mind, what we call inside the box. And why it's so effective over just about every other innovation method I've used out there, including brainstorming, jobs to be done, disruptive innovation, lateral thinking, you name it, I've used it. I've spent a lot of time and money on it. What I like about this method is that the constraints are so effective at guiding and channeling the innovation mind, the cognitive process, whereas the other methods are based on unconstrained methods. What we believe is that by brainstorming, and the research has been shown clearly with 60 years of research, that the mind gets overwhelmed by methods that are based on unconstrained approaches. And that's what basically the rest of the methods are out there. They're based on either a variation of brainstorming or some other method that leaves too much to chance in terms of how the mind is going to work. So what is creativity? It's the cognitive process to produce an idea. Innovation is the adaptation of that process into the marketplace. And finally, we now have a structured, systematic way to guide and channel that cognitive process called SIT.
Amazing. How have you seen, I think innovation, people usually associate it with product innovation. Have you seen are the most effective uses in either service-based innovation in government, nonprofits? How have people been able to use this?
Most people think that innovation applies only to products, and that's just not true, not at all true. In my mind, as a marketer, practitioner, and teacher of marketing, I would tell you that a product and services are exactly the same thing. And a process is too. In any sector, all they are benefit delivery vehicles. They deliver benefits. And so what I like about SIT is that You can take a product, you can take a service. If they can be broken into components, you can apply the SIT method to it. So, for example, a company like Kraft that makes food products likes to use the method on their food products to create new innovative foods, but they also like to use it on the manufacturing process, how it actually goes through the line. So take a product like Jell-O. They have used the SIT method very successfully to reinvent how they make Jell-O. But they take it even further than that. They take it all the way from the store into the family's pantry, and ultimately how the mother takes Jell-O and makes it with their kids for a lot of fun. They're actually innovating the use of the product. I liken it to a toy manufacturer. If you wanted to, you could apply SIT to toys, or you could apply SIT to children's play. And both ways will get you innovative ideas, and that's what I like about the SIT method. It's robust across a lot of different domains. I know it sounds like a dream come true, too good to be true, but we've seen it used in the government sector. Cities like Minneapolis in the U.S. will use the method, have used the method to control and improve traffic and congestion flow after large sporting events, for example. Very innovative use. Other firms like financial services, banking, nonprofits, again, they'll use it for processes on fundraising, processes on how money is deployed. Anything that can be broken into components is a candidate for the SIT method.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Last question for you. If somebody is interested in finding out more about how they can apply the SIT method within their organization, how would you recommend they go about doing that?
The method is, we used to say it was new, but it's really not that new when you consider it's over 20 years old now. And I've had the experience where people will learn the method and they'll scratch their head and say, why am I just hearing about this now? And it's a fair question. But like any new method or any new discovery, there's a rate of diffusion. What's happened is that the method is finally getting out there into the mainstream. A lot of that is because of the book that Jacob and I wrote called Inside the Box. And we had described the method in great detail there. We hold nothing back. I'm happy to say that the method is being taught now at a number of major universities, Columbia University, my institution, University of Cincinnati, MIT, it's being taught at Wharton, it's being taught at University of Chicago, it's being taught overseas. And we also have resources online. We have resources, online courses, as well as web apps and things that let people learn the method. We want to make people self-sufficient so that they can apply it. This method makes a great topic in a university setting because it can be bolted on to an existing course on, say, strategy or entrepreneurship or design. It can be bolted on to a program in the College of Engineering, for example, or it can be a standalone course. And my co-author and I try to be very helpful with other faculty from around the world. We get contacts all the time to help provide our slides and other teaching material so they can bring this valuable tool to whatever course they're teaching.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time. It's been very, very interesting, and I would recommend to anyone who is able to check out the book, Inside the Box, as well as Drew's blog. And where can we find your blog, Drew?
Great. So the blog is in two places, actually. drewboyd.com. It's not hard to remember. And it's also on www.innovationinpractice.com. And all I blog about is the SIT method and how it's used in various places around the world in marketing and product innovation, private sector, public sector, and so on.
Excellent. Thank you again for your time.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.